not married and they are doing this incredible.
Well, there's a myriad of things. I think first of all, we have to go back to
a writer. You are very well known for your teaching skills. Your students speak a whole lot about you.
Miss Nigeria competition.
And I said, let's pick them up, let's take them back to Nigeria, and let's teach them a different kind of job.
Roosevelt once said that a woman is like a tea bag. You can never tell her strength until you put her in a pot of hot water. And Oprah Winfrey crowned it when she advised the women that they should not be afraid of failure. They should think like queens, because queens are never afraid of failure. Actually, failure for her is another stepping stone to greatness. It is on that we hinge the program The Woman, the 5-star woman, where we showcase women who have contributed meaningfully to the society. I have a very delectable personality seated with me. I call her my sister. I call her a mentor. I look up to her in a whole lot of things. Maybe, Chioma, you could help me get involved in business. Welcome to 5-Star Woman.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here.
All right.
It's good to be back in Nigeria again.
Really, really, it's good. So I would like to hit it the way it is. I describe you as an enema, a bundle of energy, a bundle of hope, a bundle of everything put together. But I'm wondering, what's your philosophy of life?
My philosophy? Then that's an interesting question. Let me think. I think that when I look at the journeys that I've had, when I look at the one thing that has been consistent with me, I would have to believe that everybody is completely 100% responsible for their life. You know what I'm saying? In other words, I think that the choices that we make, it's important to understand that the choices we make in our lives is a sacred privilege. And when you make that choice, wherever that choice is going to take you, you've got to use it. You've got to be passionate. And you have to understand that no matter how much failure you have in your life, something has to give. In other words, you're going to get closer to success, no matter how many failures you have. That's what I completely believe.
If you fail and keep trying, then one day you'll definitely succeed.
Let me give you an example. You know when you see a little kid, a kid that's born, and the kid is about a year old and they're crawling and they fall down. That kid gets up right away. How come human beings don't do that? No matter how many times a baby falls, that baby, it's going to cry, but it's going to get up. Whenever I watch kids, it fascinates me, because as we get older, it gets harder for us to get up. But the ones that are truly icons, the ones that get successful, they consistently work at it. So that's my philosophy. You got to be responsible for your life, because nobody's going to give it to you.
It's beautiful. Now, how has this philosophy worked for you in life?
Oh my God, it's worked on me. I'll give you an example. When I first came to Nigeria in 2014, everybody kept on telling me it's gonna be tough, it's gonna be hard, Chioma. And I keep saying to myself, you know what, if I don't come to Nigeria and try this, I don't want to be 80 years old sitting in my rocking chair thinking I wish I had gone and did it. So when I came here, oh my God, there were obstacles. But you know what? Every day I would get up in the morning, I would make a little prayer commanding my morning, and I would go out there consistently. I would leave at 8 o'clock a.m. and I would come back sometimes at 11 o'clock, and it is tough job. You know, it's an interesting thing, especially when I come home to think about how far we've come. When I look back, I don't even remember leaving Nigeria. I'm actually the child of Biafra. So Biafra cuts really deep for me, because it was during the Biafran War that my family got ripped apart. I was separated from my mom, and my dad and I and our siblings went to Lisbon. From Lisbon, we went to London. From London, we were accepted to the Canadian Embassy. So when I came to Canada, I became a Canadian citizen in 1970. My sister, Miriam Ikejiani Clark, the former FCT minister, she was in Washington, Howard, with her husband, Chuba Kadibor, and they later came back to Nigeria, but we stayed in Canada. I first started off doing real estate, and it was difficult. And I should say that my home life was tough because I grew up with my stepmom. I didn't grow up with my mother. And so because it was a very strained relationship, I decided that it was better if I leave the house. And that was a tough decision because I think it was the day that I became an adult. And I had to learn how to pay all my bills, and I had to learn how to be an adult in a very strange and a very difficult and a very discriminatory environment. And for the first time, they look at you and you're thinking, why didn't I get that job? You know, they're not going to tell you it's because you're black. They're going to give you so many ideas, so many reasons why. And so for me, I decided that I've got to make my own moves. I've got to, you know, set up my own company, because if I can determine my career, then I'm not going to allow anybody to determine my destiny. So I decided I'm going to do real estate, and I became really successful in real estate, and then I got bored. I got bored doing real estate. I did it for over 20 years. And then I decided I was going to do a speaking engagement. I was going to talk to the youth. And in 1999, I got a Queen Jubilee Award from the Prime Minister, Mr. Kretchen, for my work in the youth. I did a lot of speaking engagements, and then that led to the publication, because I didn't see a lot of black role models in the Canadian platform, media platform. And so I thought that we need a platform where we could showcase women and men that were doing amazing things. And so I set up a magazine.
What are the challenges being an entrepreneur, especially a woman?
Well, you know, it's interesting. In the Canadian environment, it's very difficult to get a loan unless you have a collateral. So I had people that supported my idea, and I sold ads. That's what I did in the magazine. So I had a concept. Let's interview people in the community that did extraordinary things, right? And then I sold ads, and I went to a lot of the corporations. In the beginning, it was difficult because people didn't know who I was, but eventually they began to see me and they supported me. But I think that what separated me was the fact that I was a perfectionist. So when they saw the first issue, the second issue, they really liked the concept. They loved the graphics. They just loved the way that I put the magazine together. So that was the expectations. And so by the time I knew it, it was like 10 years later. And so that set me apart. That was the first time a black woman in Canada was able to put a magazine on the newsstands across Canada. It had never happened before. And it was an exciting moment for me. So that's one of the highlights. The low points was working with staff, trying to get staff, trying to pay staff. It's difficult because I have very high expectations. And 10 years later, I have 4 people that have been with me from day one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you know, when I look at the magazine business, the most transient part of it is the sales part, because salespeople keep coming. But for your operational manager, for those that are doing your graphics, for those that are handling your printing press, you need to sustain those guys because you don't want to keep training them all the time.
Was I think it was Punch or something.
Yes.
Yes, when you had to, talk to us about, going beyond the oil.
I think the timing is perfect. And I think that this is the best time for Nigeria to diversify. I think there's a political will, both with the legislative arm and with the National Assembly, with the presidency. I think it's almost the perfect storm. Everybody's coming together and they're saying we really need to diversify. So I captured this in 2015. I want to see exactly how far have we come. Because Saudi Arabia is diversifying. Canada continues to diversify. You know, in Alberta, which is, you know, it's a very rich province because of oil. In Alberta, the price of oil has dropped, right? The Canadian government right now, they are negotiating NAFTA with the U.S. It's a monolithic relationship with America. They've got to diversify their trade partners. It's the same thing in Nigeria.
We're going to have more of this, but that will be after this time out. The show is The Woman.
Job.
We have to uplift each other. You know, the whole thing about the Civil War brought us into a situation where I still hear people in Nigeria saying that there used to be a time when if an Hausa man is having Salah, he would go into the compound of an Igbo person and they would sit down together and chop. What happened? I have hope in Nigeria, and I think that we love each other. We get close to the cliff, but we're never going to fall off.
No, I'd like to know. At a point, like I said, I was looking for you, and suddenly I didn't find you.
You didn't find me? Oh my God, why did you not find me? I'm here.
So
I am right here.
You're going to have to tell me
I'm here. I am here. I'm not going anywhere.
You know, so what did you do? What happened to you? Why were you no longer in circulation?
You know what's really interesting about life? I think it's really interesting in life that you work so hard to be successful. Whatever success means to everybody. You get there and you think that's all that's important. And one day you say to yourself, oh, I'm going to go to the hospital. I'm going to go to the hospital. You go to the hospital, you do your medical checkup, and it's like every other checkup that I've taken. But this time, it's not like every checkup that I've taken. It's there's something wrong, and the doctor calls me in. He says, we have to do an operation immediately. And I'm thinking, I have an opportunity. I'm not sure. Am I going to do it in Nigeria? Am I going to go back to Canada? But you know what? I had so much faith in Nigerian medicine that I decided to do it.
Hang on a minute. Did you get to feel any pain?
Nothing.
There was nothing?
There was no pain. I was jogging. This is why it's so important for women to do their self-examination, to do their medical checkup. If there's one message that I can give today, is that it's not only about work, it's not only about family. They need to take the time to look after themselves, and we don't do that. We worry about everybody else. We worry about family, we worry about our husbands, we worry about our children, but we never take the time to worry about ourselves. And if it wasn't for another woman that called me from another country and reminded me that I needed to do a medical checkup, I don't even think I'd be here today. So there was no symptoms. That's why it's a deadly disease. They call it the silent killer. And I'll tell you right now, in Canada, the new statistics is 1 in 2 women will have breast cancer. So it means that if there's 3 women sitting here, 2 of us would have had breast cancer. It is serious, and we need to bring the awareness in Nigeria. And I think there's a lot of NGOs, and I think there's a lot of teaching hospitals that are doing that, but we just don't have enough data. So here I am, I get this thing, and I decide that I'm going to stay in Nigeria, and I'm going to do the surgery. Everybody thought I was crazy, but I did, and it was amazing. The cut was clean. We did a biopsy, and it came out that I have to do chemotherapy. So I decided, wow, I've got to go back, because I needed chemotherapy, and I thought I needed radiation. So I now went back to Canada in July 2016, and I spent a number of months doing chemotherapy. But what was amazing is I was walking, I was jogging. There was a point last year when I lost my hair, and then I think, you know what, it's shocking when you look in the mirror and you're bald. It's like shocking. This has been the best thing that has happened to me.
Okay.
I embrace it.
I want to get this right.
I know.
Having cancer?
It's the best thing.
It's the best thing
it
that
is.
happened to you?
It is the most. I thank God, because you know, I know she's taking her glasses off. I know.
Put me on the right
It is
path.
the most amazing thing, because for 12 years I worked 18-hour days, and I never took time for myself. Even when I finished an issue, I would maybe, take like a couple of days off, and I would be working on the next theater. So I've never taken a break. I've never had a break, and that's not healthy. All I do is work, 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 and look after the family. And I've never had time. I'm telling you, I remember saying to the doctor, okay, because I'm thinking I'm coming back to do a project in Nigeria. And I said, okay, what do I have to do? What's the solution here? Chioma, we're going to do some chemotherapy, and it's like a year. Yeah, maybe 2 years. And I looked at him in shock, because I can't even imagine taking a week off. My sister was worried, and I have to tell you, I lost a nephew. He just short of his 19th birthday, and he passed away, and it was tough. And I kept on saying, why did I survive? And I think that every one of us have a definite service that God has ordained to them. And they must live out that service, because it doesn't matter what you do. If it's your time, it's your time, right?
I'm wondering if you had to take off that time, that length.
Oh my goodness!
How did your business, cope?
Luckily for me, I ran a very tight ship, and I had people that had stayed with me for years, right? So that was the first thing. I had a stable workforce.
You changed your eating lifestyle?
That's tough. That's tough.
You look at ice cream or you bat your eyes?
Cancer became a project. It's
Cancer became a project.
Absolutely. It became a project, like every project in my life. So I dealt with it. I said, you chose the wrong person to launch on. So one of the things that I did was I decided that I was going to read up everything about the kind of cancer that I had. And I had something called HR2 positive. It's a breast cancer. And my oncologist said to me, if you're ever going to get this kind of cancer, this is the best cancer to get. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? He said,
cancer has breast.
Absolutely. So there's so many different kinds of breast cancer, depending on when they look at you and they diagnose you. Every person is different. So he said to me, there's lots of research, there's lots of money that have been in there. So this is you've gotten the best one, because we can look at this, right? So when I did the chemotherapy, my tumor went from 11 centimeters in 3 months to 3 centimeters to it disappeared. It was incredible. So in 6 months, they could tell that the chemotherapy was working. And for the first time, the hospital decided not to put me on radiation. I didn't have to do a mastectomy. I didn't have to cut to remove my breast. So I was very happy about that. And then I decided that I was going to work out. So I started walking, and I ran, I exercised. And one of the things that I did, and I did a lot of juicing, and I learned about the juicing when I was here last year in Nigeria. Okay. So I did a lot of juicing, and I ate a lot of salad. So I completely changed my eating habit, which is probably why I look smaller now.
That's good.
And I'm ready for Nigerian television. Hello. Come.
All right, so the show is The Woman, and I'll be right back. Now, talking about the woman, really, what are the challenges you see as an entrepreneur, with your gender? What's the problem women get to face doing business, especially in our terrain?
So when I came to Nigeria, and I did this strategically, it was important to me to find out, how am I going to dress? Certainly I can't dress the way I was dressing in Nigeria, because it's a different weather. Canada is cold, Nigeria is hot. But you know what? I wanted to be elegant. I wanted to look classy. I wanted to look sophisticated. I didn't want to go into an office and meet somebody and they're going to judge me if I was wearing an inappropriate dressing. And I'll tell you something, when I was in a lot of the meetings, the women that came in, and I thought, I can't believe they're coming into an office dressed like this. So I think that's a big challenge. I think more women, particularly the younger generation, they really need to invest on how they look if they're going to work in Nigeria if they're going to be successful. The other thing that I think is a challenge is women specifically, they internalize their problems. What do I know.
I was going to ask that.
What do I mean by women that internalize their problems? Sometimes they get emotional because we're emotional creatures. I think one of the things that is a gender difference for both of us is that there are things that men do not get upset about in a corporate setting, but women will get upset. And so sometimes I think we have to take it in the chin. I think that we can't allow our emotions to interfere with any of the working policies in the office. So I think that's a challenge.
But I'm thinking, have you done anything to influence positively the younger ones? I'm talking about mentoring them.
You know, it's interesting. When you decide that you're going to run your own show, right? Or when you're going to do your own thing, sometimes you don't know the people that are out there that are watching you, that are perhaps inspired by you. I spent 6 years on a speaking circuit in Canada, speaking to youth, speaking to young women. And I remember I did a foundation where I would give money, and I realized after a year of giving money to kids that would go to school, that wasn't enough, because, you know, they would graduate, but guess what? They couldn't afford a computer. So I hooked up with a computer company and we made technology available. I did that for 6 years and it was great. But I think that, I don't know what it is. I grew up with watching my mother and father. They had a great work ethic. My father worked really hard. My mom worked really hard. It's incumbent of me to work really hard. And I really think that there is a subsection of society in the youth that think that they want really immediate gratification. You know, they want it now. I'm not prepared to take the time to sow the seed and plant it and nurture it and work it. They don't even want to plant it. They just want to put the seed and just watch it get into the big giant, right? That's not how life works.
This craze to leave Nigeria, you know, for other countries.
Can you imagine?
You have been there, you know, and you're back home. How does it feel?
I love.
How was it like that, you know, over there?
I'll tell you, there were a number of issues that came up for me. If you want to make $30,000, $40,000, and that's your ceiling, Canada is a great place. You pay your taxes, you work hard. If you want to make big money, there's a cap. You can't. You can't. Systematically, we're shut out. As minorities, we're shut out. If you're Aboriginal, it's very difficult. If you're Black, it's very difficult. If you're South Asian, it's difficult. If you're Chinese, it's difficult. Nigeria is a passionate, fertile ground. When I come here, I can't sleep.
Why?
Right now, at this stage of my life, when I go to Canada, I can't work. I go, I sit, I must come home. The thing that they don't tell you about all these countries that we want to go to, whether it's Germany, Australia, London, Canada, there's, you know, invisible racism. It's there, systematic racism. You'll be driving and they'll stop you just because you're Black. It's called profiling. If I'm traveling, if by the grace of God, I happen to have a business class, if I happen, they will ignore all the other white people. They will look at me and they will say, "Can I see your ticket?" And I said, "Why are you seeing my ticket?" "I'm just making sure that you have the right ticket." Because they can never believe that a Black person like me can afford to go and sit and stand at a business counter. So it's tiring. When I watch television, I don't see enough Black people on television. I told you earlier, it's very difficult in Canada to actually see you hosting a show. 9 out of 10, it's a white person that's hosting a show. So that it's not encouraging for me as a black woman, right? It subjugates me. It is not good. So when I come here, I am visibly shaken by the opportunity. There's a black president. There's a black vice president. There's a black Senate president. You know, there's all these things. Nigeria is a powerhouse because we are the largest. Where's the camera? We are the largest black populace in the world, and nobody touches Nigeria. I don't care what anybody says.
That's it. That's it. Thank you so much. And you've given me just, rejuvenated the reason that I've always had to love this great country, Nigeria. I love my country, never mind.
I love Nigeria.
And I like it right here. Thank you so much, Chioma. It's been wonderful having this beautiful time with you.
Thank you for having me.
That's it on The Woman, and I hope you had a wonderful time. Next week brings you another lovely personality. And I remain Elizabeth. For now, I simply say, be good citizens.
Information is power. Everyone wants power. So feel powerful with the NTA News Model app, the one-stop information center. Real news at your fingertip. Be the first to report by uploading first-hand information on the You Report link, and be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News Model app, your access to real-time information.